Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me today on what is going to be a street view exploration of the Belgian city of Ghent. It's a very old town with a well-preserved medieval core. We're going to be taking a relaxed promenade through its streets, as ever looking out for beautiful architecture, and I will be generally amusing myself by remarking on what I see. I think what we'll do is we'll start somewhere in the outskirts and make our way into the centre as if we were visiting for real. Just a first thing I'd like to point out is that most of the town seems to be housed on this island here, where I would guess the clever Flemishmen of the past have diverted the course of the rivers that had their confluence here and made them into these canals surrounding their city. Alright, let's get started. Here we are dropping into Ghent. And we begin in what I would say is a fairly typical street scene in Belgium. We've got these terraced rows, and we've got the ubiquitous zigzag brick paving. Now, one of the advantages, of course, of the brick paving that you see often in Belgium and the Netherlands is that it's a lot easier and probably cheaper to replace if some of the road needs to be taken up for maintenance work. But the main advantage, of course, is that it just looks so much better than concrete, especially when you see concrete that's been all cracked and torn up after a cold winter. I'm not saying that these are the most beautiful bricks in the world by any means, but any small thing that can improve the aesthetics of your road really ought to be pursued, in my opinion. All these small things add up. We reach the river now, or perhaps the canal, and we're taking a stroll down the canal path. Ooh, and I've spotted the first really colourful set of buildings on the other side here that have caught my eye. That's very lovely, isn't it? We've got a mixture of much newer, less appealing architecture over here, but I can sense better things are yet to come when I see this. This looks relatively new, I would say, but looking at the ornamentation around the windows, I would say that the buildings have been designed with the traditional, the vernacular style in mind, which I think is important for maintaining the aesthetic cohesion of a city. We've also got these plane trees here. We see these a lot in London. I find these kind of mottles on the bark very appealing. And isn't this just a lovely view? The spire in the background, the different colours of the buildings, changing each time, something to entertain the eye all the way through. Let's see if we can make a crossing here on this pedestrian bridge. Struggling a bit. We'll see if we can just jump over. Aha! Straight over. But how do we get into the core? Hoping to find another bridge. There it is. That's our bridge into the main part of the town. A lovely day. Really nice day they've captured here in March 2023. Sunny spring day. And just glancing along the top of the buildings here, we've got some great variety here. This kind of triangular shape, this little kind of mansard dome with a rounded window. This is the kind of style I associate more with French architecture, but then actually looking at this very classical style with the ornamentation above the windows, this almost reminds me of some of the buildings I've seen in Eastern Europe. I'm thinking of the Estonian capital of Tallinn. I think this is kind of a bit of a Russian imperial style that you might see there, although of course this is neoclassical. And also the red brick that we see a lot in late Victorian buildings in London. Okay, I think it's time to enter the first layer of the city proper, and already we're starting to see some little gems mixed in amongst the rest. The year 1747. Fantastic. I love the detail here. The symmetricality of it. Very exciting. You can see, looks like we've got some tram lines here. Ooh, and we've spotted our first Flemish step gable style. This is something I associate mainly with Belgium, although you do see it also in the Netherlands. And then we've got this much more classical piece next to it. Really wonderful juxtaposition here, both of shapes and colours. And then we have this plain but certainly attractive classical facade over here. Very lovely. Lots to look at here in Ghent. Ooh, more Flemish step-style gables, juxtaposed with the red brick, the white stripes. The church steeple in the background. I mean, this is already, and I know there's more to see in this town. This is pretty special. I think we're in for a treat here. Stunning. And we come to our first church. Just going to take a glance at the map here. Very, very impressive spiral masonry here. Fantastic details on this church. I think we may have spotted our first Belgian flag here, just in case you were in any doubt about where we are. Another large step gable building here. And they have an embarrassment, a wealth of towers and churches in this town, clearly. Everywhere we look, there's another beautiful spire, though I don't think that's necessarily a church over there. We'll take a look down this street here. This is calling to me. Very handsome facade. I do like the way that the streets are narrow. I mean, it's clearly a relic of its medieval history. These were not streets built for cars, although we see cars everywhere. It's much more of a human scale. Makes it feel like somewhere. Ooh, even the little back streets have something great to look at here. This little trio. I was going to say it makes it feel like a place you really want to be, a place you want to walk around in. And these aren't even the pedestrianised streets. Not in the best state of repair, but we'll forgive them. They've got so much to maintain here in terms of historic architecture that we're bound to miss a few. Lovely coloured doors here, the rounded windows. In terms of the spread of architectural history we've got here, these I would say, going off what we saw earlier, could be 18th century, but I could certainly even imagine seeing something in this style in Belgium as early as the 16th century. And then these look to be, it could be late 19th century, but I wouldn't be surprised if this was actually early 20th century. Ghent was occupied by the Germans during the Second World War, so it was spared a lot of the destruction and desolation that many of its neighbouring cities suffered. Shame about this bin lorry, but you've got to keep your streets clean. And isn't this a fantastic view? We've got this little amuse bouche at the end of the street, leading our eye upwards towards this wonderful tower. I'm sure that we haven't really reached the centre proper of the city yet. Feels that we're being teased by it, wandering through the back streets. But no doubt before too long, now we start to see some really old buildings. Now, the stonework here suggests something more medieval to me, and then we've got more of this kind of slightly newer style of brickwork compared to the older here. But wow, what a great street. Just wonderful. Flemish step gables up here. Just a wonderful, wonderful place to walk around. French embassy, perhaps? Embassy? No, not a big enough city for that. No. And in fact, it is the Belgian flag. The distance is tricking my eye with the colours. Okay, now we are talking. Look at this. Gosh, this is where it starts to get a little bit overwhelming, you know. There is an awful lot to look at here, and I'd love to be here. I'd love to be here in person, of course. We have this wonderful resource of Google Street View to enjoy, but nothing quite compares to actually being here. Wow. So, I suppose the thing that really stands out to me here is the green window fixtures against this limestone. I assume it's limestone. It's just very appealing, very, very lovely detail here. This reminds me shape-wise a little bit of St Pancras station in central London. Of course, the colour is very different there. It's a red brick, a lovely burnished colour. We've got it's a bit paler here. And how about that for a tower? We'll get over there in a moment, but this, I would guess, is perhaps the Stadhuis, the town hall. And these could perhaps be local historical figures, people who have made contributions to the life and history of the town, perhaps. And that is a very handsome stepped gable. As you can see, I'm an absolute sucker for a stepped gable. I'm incorrigible. I can't get enough of it. Well, yeah, just a stunning place to be. You know, everywhere you turn, there is something that in any other town, in any other country, might be, you know, one of the best buildings that the locals were most proud of. And yet here, it's just every angle. The brewery here. Yeah, wouldn't it be lovely to sit in one of these seating areas and have a nice Belgian beer. Now look, as you can probably tell from my accent, I'm an Englishman, and let it not be said that I'm not a patriotic beer drinker. I love an English ale, but I do think that the best beer in the world comes from Belgium. They have a long tradition of Trappist monks making good, strong, flavoursome beers, and they are among my favourites. I've just paused here because I want to remark on this strange structure. Clearly something a lot newer. You can tell by the big slabs of concrete. So this is brutalist, I would guess you could describe it as, but at least they've made a bit of effort to do something interesting here. This shape, sort of reminiscent of German architecture, I would have said, or perhaps Scandinavian. The long barn. You know, there's a nod to the vernacular here, but on the whole, it's not a blight, but it could certainly be better looking. The Stadshol, the city pavilion, also sort of reminds me of a covered market square that you might see in one of England's market towns. That is a very tall tower now, isn't it? Very tall when we consider when it would have been built. You know, a real engineering marvel for people hundreds and hundreds of years ago. If you ask me how to go about building something this big out of stone, I would not know where to begin. Wow. It's as I say, it's an overwhelming place to be because there are so many different directions we could go in. And in every direction, there is something astonishing. I mean, gosh, look at this. Look at this. I wonder if we can get a good front-on view. Yeah, just wonderful. And I mean, can you believe it? It's a taco place. You know, Belgium has just such an embarrassment of riches when it comes to historic architecture that something like this can be filled with something as frivolous as a fast food chain. And the same here at McDonald's if we just take a look at this, that is on its own very special. And over here, it doesn't stop. Ghent does not stop. Now, this is where I confess to you that I have in fact visited Ghent. I visited in 2018. That's right. So it's been a fair few years since I've been there. And the time I visited, I didn't really have such a great appreciation for architecture. I didn't have such a finely developed aesthetic sense, you might say. So this is really making me want to return. And something that may be of note, something you might not have thought about before if you're not familiar with northwestern Europe, is that it's a funny quirk of the geography that where I live in London is closer to Belgium, many parts of Belgium, including certainly this northwestern city of Ghent, than to other places in my own country. I often travel for work to Newcastle in England's northeast, and that is considerably further away than this city, Ghent, where they speak a completely different language that I cannot speak. It's just a funny thing. I know a bit of French, which is the other major language spoken in this country, but Dutch is somewhat mysterious to me. I ought to be commenting here on what I'm seeing. I mean, what a fantastic row. I love the way that this tower here is slightly at odds with the angle of the rest of the street. Very pleasing effect. And this row on the other side facing this, and the way that they sort of taper inwards, leading your eye over here. Stunning, absolutely stunning. Well, there's clearly a lot more for us to look at here in Ghent. You know, this video, I feel we've only scratched the surface. So I think what we'll do is we're going to return to Ghent for a part 2. So stay tuned for that. If you've been enjoying the music in this video, then you might want to take a look at my first channel, which I'll link to in the description. All of the music in my videos is written and recorded by me. Alright, I will see you in Ghent Exploration Part 2.